Colin O'Keefe here for LXBN TV. You can add Pennsylvania to the growing list of states with legalized same-sex marriage, as a judge there just recently struck down the state's law banning the practice. Joining me now to explain the judge's ruling is attorney David Ladov. He is co-chair of Obermayer's Family Law Practice Group and author on the firm's blog, Family Matters. David, first off, can you walk us through the judge's decision here? How did this all come about?
Essentially, what happened is that in the Middle District of Pennsylvania, a lawsuit was filed by 14 different plaintiffs. The compilation of the plaintiffs represented the different issues that they wanted to bring in front of the court. So, for example, some of the plaintiffs are married in other states, so they wanted recognition of their marriage in another state to happen in Pennsylvania. Others were parties here who were living in Pennsylvania and wanted to get married, obviously same sex. One was a widow, so there were death benefits that came into play. And surprisingly, there were two children as part of the plaintiff group who wanted to be children of a married couple, not of two parents who couldn't be married. So it was a compilation, as I say, of 14 different people that presented themselves to a group of attorneys. The attorney group included the ACLU of both national and Pennsylvania, a private law firm, Hangley Aronchek, spearheaded this, and they did this pro bono. And then there was also a professor from University of Pennsylvania who gave of his time to make this happen. So as you can sort of see, this was a concerted effort to try and address how can Pennsylvania strike down all of the issues dealing with same-sex marriage, both recognition and also initiation of a marriage. So that's how it all got started. The decision, the case itself went through different stages. As anyone knows who does litigation, you have a discovery stage. So there were depositions taken of all the plaintiffs. Then there were statements made. And fortunately, this was a judge who was a very interested judge and wanted to get through this process. And essentially, he got the parties to stipulate and do everything on argument rather than have a trial, which is kind of unusual, but there really was no disputed facts. It was just, the question was the law in Pennsylvania, that we have a mini DOMA law like the federal law that was struck down a little while ago. We too had one of those statutes, and the question would be, could that statute withstand scrutiny?
I see. And then second, is this really the end of the line here? Is same-sex marriage fully legalized there, or is there still more left to play out on this front?
Well, we fortunately, and I say this fortunately, are in an election year. So once the judge struck it down, the lawsuit, essentially, the defendant was the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'm looking at my notes because Governor Corbett had to make a decision whether to appeal it or not. And he opted, in an election year of which he will be up on the ballot in November, to not appeal this decision. And he basically stated that based upon the judge's very, very firm and passionate decision, that he felt the ability to successfully appeal was almost nil. And as he stated, while he personally does not believe in same-sex marriage based on his religion, he would, as governor of the state, uphold the laws of the country and the laws of the state. And a federal judge ruled that our law was unconstitutional and struck it. So he basically threw in the towel. So we now, I'm looking for my notes, I think we're now the 17th state, together with the District of Columbia, who now have same-sex marriage. So within hours, Colin, and this was fascinating, people were standing in line to get marriage licenses in Philadelphia. And the judges who can, anyone, judges can marry couples. They started marrying people that afternoon. And then the next day, there were 2 or 3 judges assigned, and they had open marriage court, so to say. And they did it Friday, Saturday, over Memorial Day weekend. And they have, I don't know the total number, but I'm going to tell you there are hundreds of people who have gotten married.
Wow. Well, when I ask if it had an immediate impact, I guess we can say that it most certainly did. Once again, that was attorney David Ladov of Obermayer. For more of his insight on this story, be sure to visit ObermayerFamilyMatters.com. Thank you for joining me today, David.
My pleasure.